let's jump into some of the main storylines this week in the NFL. And Mark, this is a story that I didn't think I'd bring it up again this season. I certainly didn't think I'd be talking in this situation, but Tua has officially suffered his second concussion of the season. I seen the play. I actually only seen the play on Tuesday morning, and the Dolphins, it wasn't recognized by the Dolphins. And again, it was frankly poor management and poor medical care from a Dolphins team that frankly should now know better after the Cincinnati. I think it was Cincinnati on Thursday Night Football from memory. Um, I feel sorry for Tua in the sense of, realistically his season is over. If his season isn't over, it's at the time of recording, we're expecting Teddy Bridgewater to play on Sunday, and that will be the case. But, when you've got 1 week left of the season, you have to prioritize this lad's health, surely. And, I guess it goes into a conversation. You look at a guy like Andrew Luck that played beaten up for years, and his sudden departure from the league. Would you be surprised if Tua did consider his future? And I know I'm going into different questions here now. I'll leave it in this. Could we see Tom Brady play in Miami next year? Apparently he's got a legal document which states that he must take care of his children for 3 days of the week. So being in Florida, it might actually help him. It's a very sad situation for Tua.
I hadn't really thought about would he call it a career? It is at the point now where it's a bit, definitely unfortunate. You don't want to become, the moniker thrown on you that you're prone to anything, especially injury. But when it comes to concussions, I know I suffer from migraines, and the worst things in the world, and the migraines that come along with concussions are brutal. So, he's sitting there and he's going through this. So, I mean, it's up to him. When it comes to the actual sport, I think he's clearly competitive, or else he'd be removing himself off the field, right? Because it's the problem that we're having with this is that the concussion protocol didn't kick in on time. It was after the game that the news comes out that, he was displaying symptoms. And again, he somehow managed to get back on the field. And that was the problem against the Bengals earlier on this season and why it kicked off. Now, the Dolphins are way cuter with how they're dealing with this time. Mike McDaniels obviously was first time around, he said the wrong things in the beginning, and he wanted to let it be known that he was on the side of the player. Now he is saying Tua needs to prioritize his health. It's that's the kind of statements that he's making, and the team as a whole has kind of gone. Which it's good to see the development. I see from that point of view. I do think when it comes to the NFLPA, they seem to be like the opposition in government, where they're supposed to scream from the houses about what's wrong, but they're not actually doing enough in the moment, because it's very easy for them to get on their soapbox after something has happened and say, oh yeah, we need the changes. And look, the changes will come in the offseason. The PA has been great at advocating for change, but at the end of the day, they do need to be getting on to the likes of Tua and say, you need to remove yourself from the game if they really mean business. So as it goes for the Dolphins, obviously still in the playoff hunt, they go to Teddy Bridgewater, who himself was removed with a concussion earlier on in the season as well. So it's very difficult for the Miami Dolphins, but it is one of those things that becomes a bit bigger in the sport, right? It's like, to his play dropped off, etc. When it looked like he took that hit, but it's not just the play, it's that we're worried about. It obviously is his future. So when you ask there, does he pack it in? I don't think so. I think that he has clearly demonstrated that he's too competitive. He's too young, and probably that comes along with that is being a bit more naive. You don't often see players do what Andrew Luck did, and at least Andrew Luck did it when he was 29 years of age. And obviously to this day, they are writing documentaries, and still people are in disbelief that he did step away. Tua has just gotten a taste of what it's like to be liked in the NFL. Obviously he had a tough couple of seasons where people are calling him a bust, and would he be able to make that decision of leaving the NFL on his own terms? So I don't think he steps away. I don't think it's the end of a season either. Because obviously he'll be fighting to get back in. It did take him a while to clear the concussion protocol the last time around. We don't actually really know how bad this one is, because he did play on the remainder of that game the other day. But yeah, if they're obviously to make the playoffs and that, I think he finds a way back into the game.
Michaela, it's a very difficult decision for Miami, both short term and long term. Obviously, short term, you got Teddy Bridgewater coming in as quarterback, and we've seen that Teddy can be reliable in certain situations. I, as a Broncos fan, know that as much as anybody in this conversation. I like Teddy. I wish Teddy all the best, but surely we have to prioritize someone's health now over a potential, as it stands, Kansas City game. As it stands, of course, that could be Kansas City, that could be the Bills, depending on what happens in this week's action and next week's action. But they're going to face a difficult team. So for the sake of the safety of the quarterback, would it make sense to at least stand Tua down for the season and give him the time to at least maybe have a thought about his future? Or what's your thoughts in this situation?
I think I think Tua should reasonably consider, okay, he's had two concussions in the one season, and the Miami Dolphins were slated, and deservedly so, how they handled the first concussion he got. But when I talk about the NFL with some people, they don't the first thing they think of is, oh, I've watched these documentaries or I've listened to these podcasts about the concussions in the NFL and how it was years and years ago, before like it was kind of like, what's the word, like all the before it was brought to light, basically, about what the players suffered and how they suffered after their careers. And obviously there's been steps to make sure that doesn't happen anymore. But it's such a serious thing that I personally think that Tua shouldn't play for the rest of the season, even if the Miami Dolphins were, you know, 15-0 and they hadn't lost a game and he was MVP and stuff like that. He kind of has to come out now, because like two concussions is a bit much for me personally, and I wouldn't blame him if he started questioning whether he should kind of give it up, because in the end he got, like, his dream came true. Like, he played in the NFL, he would have got a very high paying contract that would look after him for the rest of his life. So there's no, like, if you kept him playing in the NFL and he played another 2 or 3 years and he didn't live up to his own expectations and then damaged his body or his brain in the process, then like it wouldn't be worth it. He would just tell himself, "Oh, I should have just stopped." But I, like Mark, um I don't see him leaving the league next year. I don't see him retiring. But I think if he was to get a concussion next year, he'd have to seriously consider it, because I think three is the main number everyone thinks of for concussions. I think they say if you get three, then you have to stop for your own health.
I think there's some, and we are in no way medical or liability or insurance experts, folks, and we have no affiliation with the NFL. In case anyone is watching, what is thinking, I think there is some sort of situation, some sort of issue if he got to like week 3 or 4 of the season next year, and if he did suffer another concussion, I think there is some sort of liability in his contract there. He is on a base sort of $48 million salary, which is considerable, but I guess he would be looking at the Justin Herberts, the Patrick Mahomes especially, and he would be trying to get a contract as high as that there. So it really is one to look at over the next few weeks and months. But I know we all, and there's plenty of Dolphins fans in Ireland that wish Tua the very, very best, and hopefully the Dolphins make the right decision, not just for their franchise but for the man himself. So it's going to be an interesting few weeks. Can Teddy lead the Dolphins far in the playoffs, folks? Yes, no? I'm going to say no. Mark, my friend, you are on mute, and I'm
As
just going to
as
keep it like this now.
it's been a week, long Christmas, all right. If we get this right, but no, I think like the run game was established under McDaniels. That's why he came in. That's what made them so successful. It was setting up the pass game. So it depends on the matchup that they get. They can still play well. The defense still exists. Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill still exists. Teddy Bridgewater has proved capable, obviously, in the past. I don't think they're a complete write off. It's not what Dolphins fans would obviously want to be going in with, but like I definitely think they're still in play. They're never going to be favored, and we're not going to talk about them beating the Bills, Bengals, Chiefs. For no one's predicting that. But can they be fun? Can you see them beating the Chargers? You don't even know. They could still end up playing the Patriots or one of these teams along the way. I think that they can still win a game with Teddy Bridgewater.
Interesting. And Michaela, I guess, when you've got Tyreek Hill for a start, you've got Jalen Waddle. All you got to do is put some sort of serviceable quarterback in there, and bingo, you can't cover both at the same time. So
The Dolphins could do a lot worse than Terry Bridgewater. We saw that when he was a backup for the Saints and he had to come in and he won a lot of his games, and then he got a contract with was it Denver? Did he go to after the Saints, or was it the
he
Panthers?
Denver, and then
He's been
and then
everywhere.
he thought that he was going to get 26 million, and then that didn't work out. But I wish Teddy the very, very best. He seems like a nice guy.
Yeah, they could be going in with a lot, like a worse quarterback. So I would support. Like, I don't think just because Teddy comes in, that their playoff hopes will be over. I don't think they'd get far with him, but they could probably win a wild card game or something like that. He's a decent quarterback.